Going fast makes me feel alive, and in today's video we're reviewing the Revoltech Yusei Fudo Deluxe set.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome to my review of the Kaiyodo Revoltech Yusei Fudo from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's Deluxe version. This is the newest Revoltech release in Kaiyodo's Yu-Gi-Oh! Line. It is the first one, however, I picked up. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's is not only my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! It's where Yu-Gi-Oh! Peaked for me in terms of interest, so I always pick up 5D's stuff because there's a lot less of it than in other parts of the franchise. But Yusei here is joining a line that already has several characters, but he is the first 5D's release, with the next release being Junk Warrior. And if you want to see me review Junk Warrior, hit the like button on this video to let me know, and even let me know down in the comments, and hit subscribe and the notification bell if you haven't subscribed already. I really appreciate it. Helps this video get out to more people, helps me know that you want to see more Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's videos. But we will wait for Junk Warrior to come in the future. Let's focus on Yusei. So this is the deluxe version of the Yusei figure, which was exclusive to the Kaiyodo store. So I had to go through a middleman service as I don't live in Japan, and Kaiyodo store doesn't have international shipping. They don't have like a Kaiyodo store US to anywhere in my knowledge. So I did get this through a third-party middleman service. But there is a regular version that is being distributed at a lot of international retailers, and we will talk about the differences. The main differences is going to be the accessories up here, but we'll go into that to describe it. And you know, that way you can figure out for yourself, is it worth it to track down the deluxe version, or am I good with the base, or am I good skipping the figure entirely? We're going to get into all the details with Yusei here and do some comparisons, because almost famously, I'm one of the few people that reviewed the Playmates Dual Runner release of Yusei way back when, so we're going to definitely take a look and see if maybe we can squeeze the Revoltech onto this bike. But that'll be coming later in the video. First up, we need to talk about what is included and what makes this deluxe. So included in the regular version of Yusei, you get the figure himself, a stand with an alternate waist clip piece, 3 extra faces, a total of 5 extra hands, including extra cards for him to hold, both a single card and a hand of cards, plus you get his dual disc and the attachment mount and another attachment mount. If you get the deluxe set, which you have to track down harder, you get the iconic glass of milk, as well as an armband that has his dragon sign on it, which is pretty cool, as well as a little figure of Junk Synchron. Now, there is a way to get this Junk Synchron outside of the deluxe set, and we'll talk about that when we get to him. So you only get a few extra things with the deluxe, but for me, I definitely wanted the Junk Synchron, I definitely wanted the signer arm, and I definitely wanted the glass of milk, because that was an iconic moment. But we're going to, of course, go into all kinds of depth here. But that's the difference. So this is the deluxe set, this is the regular set. So it's not too much of a difference if you are just going for the regular. It just depends if these extra pieces are going to be a deciding factor for you. So this isn't my first experience with a Revoltech figure, but it is the first time I've bought one in a long time. Back when I had bought some Revoltechs, they had those clicky joints where every joint was ratcheted. They don't do that anymore. This is a different style. This is not an amazing Yamaguchi like we've seen with some franchises like DC, Marvel, and like My Hero Academia. This is just a standard Revoltech. And what I find interesting about it is that he feels more like a Figma than he does like old school Revoltech. But that's just me coming at this like probably 10 years since I bought the last Revoltech figure. Let's talk about him as a figure, because he's a little weird. So yeah, this is, I don't know how to approach it exactly, but weird is kind of the best way to describe it. Some of the joint things are great, and some of the joints make no sense, especially when we get to the hips here. But let's take a look, first of all, at his face. He does have intense bangs, so we can get there. What I like about it is that you do get, of course, the gold streaks in his hair, the bangs, the intense expression. You get his eyes, and then you also get the gold strip down his eye from when he was in prison. The interesting part is they don't include a face that doesn't include the gold strip, so this is strictly Yusei after he escaped prison. Also, if you've never seen Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, the show is like a lot about like class systems and the way the rich treat the poor, and how a card game basically ruins society for equal opportunity for people. And essentially a lot of the main characters are basically in biker gangs, which is kind of really cool. I love 5Ds. It's a very layered world. They did a lot of great world building. But anyways, that's what that gold on his face is from. You can see he's got his logo on his jacket, or on his shirt, and his jacket is on top of it. It is not a separate piece. It's all one molded chunk. What is nice, though, is that while there's no articulation in the back of the coat, they got it splayed out so that way it's easy for him to pose. And then also up here, which is pretty neat, he actually has some good detail for his decks being in the back pockets, which I always thought was really cool, because one of the things in 5Ds is that anyone living in the satellite colony, which is essentially the lower class economic structure, they're not allowed to play card games, and specifically, you know, Duel Monsters, the card game of the Yu-Gi-Oh world, they're not allowed to play it. So it's kind of like he's stashed it in his back waist, so that's like not obvious that he has cards on him. I just love details like that in the show, and I love that that's replicated here on the figure. Other cool details is just the overall, the orange flashes. I love his character design. It's absolutely one of my favorites. Nothing is missing paint-wise, which is good, because he is, you know, an expensive collector figure out of Japan. You kind of expect the paint to be good. And I'm happy to report that paint-wise, pretty solid overall. Okay, let's get into the articulation, because that's where the weirdness comes in. So first of all, ball-jointed head, pretty good. He does have some adjustment at the base of his very long neck. I was trying to figure out if his neck was too long, but honestly, they did draw him with a long neck. He is kind of a tall guy as well. So you can kind of see that there's a lower ball joint that adjusts, and then an upper ball joint that allows you to tilt and move, which I think is pretty nice, especially because of his collar. It's good that you can get him able to turn his head in multiple directions. You can remove the head. It is on a ball joint. That may be easier to swap faces for some. I'm just going to leave it attached. Shoulders-wise, and this is where some of the weirdness comes in. Shoulders-wise, they're on these little like ball swivels. And you can see that the shoulder pad is on a little ball joint. And then he has a forward motion, but it's very tight, so it's very limited. It kind of moves forward and back. It doesn't break the sculpt too bad. The shoulders move out like that, and that just looks like it just gets a little too thin. And then you've got a 360 swivel, which is really tight, once again, because they're all kind of built on the same joints. A bicep, not really a bicep swivel, but kind of a swivel at the shoulder. Then you got an elbow, which goes actually pretty far. I've never really seen a double joint on a Revoltech style before, but there you go. So you can see that it's actually two ball joints to make his elbow, which is pretty cool. And then these also can rotate because of the nature of the way the joints are built. You also may notice that you actually can extend this down because the arms are removable, and that will allow for extra range. So he's got pretty good range there. Then he's got wrists that pivot in and out. They rotate and all that. Now the torso, there's a joint here that's really hard to adjust because it just came unglued. Okay, that's concerning. Can I pop that back in without having to glue it? I don't know why there's a ball joint there, because you can't move it because of the jacket. And now it detached. And okay, it's back in. So it pegs in, but I guess be careful. The waist also does kind of like this dance, and it popped out again. Oh my god. This is something, I don't know if this is just me pushing it for a review, but that's definitely glue to hold that peg in place, and that glue definitely popped. I'm going to have to fix that later. For now, we're just going to have to be careful because, yeah, that's something I didn't know going into this. But now you know. If you get this figure, be careful, because apparently if the glue dries out, that could happen. Anyway, he's got a ball joint there. His hips move out, but very, very not far, considering how much range it looks like they have. They can push forward. They can move back a little bit. He has a thigh swivel, but it's so tight that it sort of like, and when I did it earlier to get the joint to move that much, it was so tight, and especially it's still tight on this side, you can end up popping the ball joint of the hip out, and I don't think that's a good thing either. So the hips are a little too tight at first. Single jointed knee goes about that far. You also have some rotation adjustment, and then the ankles pivot forward, back, left, right, and then a toe joint. Most of the joints are fine. I think the weirdest joints on them are the shoulders, obviously whatever is going on in the torso there, as well as the hips. And that is kind of like, you know, this part, not great, this part, not great. And also because of the way that they have so many of these circular Revoltech joints, it's very hard to just get them to stand straight up and down in a natural way because he just kind of has a tendency to tip. Once you get him, he's fine. At least he can put his arms down. But it's just, he's a little awkward to pose because of how many joints are just these circular joints and not something a little different. Now, in terms of the stand he comes with, it's got, you know, kind of your standard, like, 3-point arm. You can plug it straight into the back of him, straight into his back. So that'll hold him up pretty good, no matter what pose. And if that's not good enough, it also does come with a clip. I feel like this is just a standard inclusion. His waist is a little thick because of the jacket, so I'd recommend just plugging it straight into his back. There's no real reason to use the clip piece, but it's nice that it's included nonetheless. But let's take a look at his accessories and see how hard it is to swap his hands and his faces. All right, so when it comes to his faces, he does have this stern expression as the default, and to swap them out, you just pull the front part of his hair, just the bangs area, and then you can pull his faceplate off, and you give him like any of the other expressions. They just clip right in, and then you put the hairpiece back on, and you're good to go. His faces include this stern neutral expression. We've got a cocky smile like he's just played the card that he needed to go for the whole combo. Of course, we have an iconic yelling head, because you need that for Yu-Gi-Oh! To yell out your card names. Plus, he comes with a wincing expression. Now, normal Yu-Gi-Oh! Does have wincing expressions for those crazy shadow duels where the players are getting hurt at the same time that the monsters are, or just when they're being very dramatic. But in the case of Yusei, he ends up fighting, you know, other gangs and cops and prisoners and all kinds of people. Especially if you watch the original Japanese version, he gets into a lot of fist fights, so this actually feels super appropriate for Yusei. So when it comes to his hands, they're pretty easy to swap out. You just give them a little pull, and they pull right off. I like hands that are like this on action figures where you're plugging something onto something. I don't like it when you have the stems and you have to like feed it in because I always feel like those are going to break. But then, of course, you get a whole rack of hands here to replace it with. So we're just going to stick on one of these just for fun. So you can just swap them in. Pretty nice and simple, nothing too complicated. So hands-wise, of course, he has his fists, which is more appropriate for Yusei than any other Yu-Gi-Oh! Character. Then you got some open hands. These can be dramatic gesturing, / pointing, or just relax. Like you just kind of have them kind of chilling. They got multiple uses there. Then we got this hand, which is perfect for holding a card. You do get a separate card on one side. It's got kind of like your blank template of a card, and then the other side is that iconic card back. And it just slots right in. Pretty nice and easy overall. Kind of a good for a card drawing or a card placing. You have some options with that. And then you get another card hand here, which is the classic 2-finger card hose. It is the same card. This is removable, like I showed on the other hand. You just get one card that's loose, but it is a piece of plastic, which is nice. It's not like it's cardboard or anything, but it's pretty nice to have his card, so you can have a dramatic summon. You can also just like go up with it, but yeah, the shoulders don't go up very well. So you got some limited options because of the shoulder range, but overall it works pretty good. And then he comes with another hand that has a hand of cards to hold. And this is pretty cool too because the cards are removable. I'm just going to leave them in here because they actually clip in really nice and I don't want to adjust it. But you can see there's different types of cards there. If we zoom in, you can see they have different colored borders to be different types of cards, which is super cool. But you know, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Post-Battle City. We need some extra help of technology to make the duels more exciting. All right, so here is Yusei's Duel Disk. This is, of course, how he can play card games remotely. This also locks into his duel runner because 5Ds had this big thing with motorcycles for speed duels, for some of its duels, but not all of them. So you do just get the normal version. It doesn't have a fold-up version. It is just always deployed. There is a deck of cards that is a separate piece here. Really tiny, but at least it's got some detail to tell you what direction to put it in. So you can lock it in place there. What's pretty cool about this, you also get the field spell slot flying out here, which is a pretty neat detail to have. I guess it's also why it's so thick, is they actually put that in there. But yeah, it's not anything too crazy. It's the reason I didn't trim my nails too much. You can pull that out if you want him deploying like a field spell. That's usually what that's for, because you're going to get your monster card slots and your spell and trap slots and then your discard. So pretty cool stuff overall. Now the way it attaches to the figure is interesting. They give you two different arm pieces. So obviously this is the arm gauntlet we're like used to having him use. So you can see here, you can just like, it keys in, you can put it in place, and then you swap that onto his arm. And that's like kind of the standard look for the Duel Disk. But what was interesting is it said For some poses, use this. And what this is a tiny Velcro strap that has a mounting point for the Duel Disk, which I assume you're supposed to just put on his normal arm. I popped his arm off to make this easier. But it's so large, it is still a small strap, but it's like so large that I'm not 100% certain like the purpose of this in any way, because it doesn't really hold, even if you have a hand on the end. It's kind of really big. I don't know why you wouldn't just use this arm, but that option exists, I guess. We'll not be using that piece anymore. So basically the way this works is that the arm is swappable from about that point onward, so you just plug this on instead. And of course, this is where your card hands are really going to get a lot of play. So basically, to get them ready for duels, you just pull the brown glove part off, you attach the other arm, which has, of course, the adapter, and then you can key the Duel Disk right on to his arm. And then now you can pose him however you wish while he's dueling. So, you know, you can have, because of the articulation range, you can have him pulling a card like that. You can have him placing a card. That looks pretty good. Getting him to pose putting a spell or trap, a little trickier just because it's always been kind of an awkward reach. I mean, I had the old roleplay Duel Disk as a kid, and that was always weird. You can also, of course, the field spell slot. So if you want to add that, you can slide that out, and then you can have him place a card there. A card won't hold in there, which is fine because you only get one solid card. But you can do some of that stuff there. Overall, I mean, he looks pretty good with the Duel Disk on. I think that's kind of like sort of the way that most people are going to display him as, and luckily that is included with the base package. But that is the last thing included with the base package. It's time to take a look at the stuff that's only in the deluxe set, and let's find out if it's really worth it. Okay, so first we'll start with the glass of milk and the hand to hold the glass of milk. So the glass of milk comes from a scene where Yusei walked into a bar. Of course, he is underage, so he could not get anything to drink, so he drinks a glass of milk. And it's just one of those things he did one time, but it kind of became like an iconic thing. The interesting part, too, is if you put something in the bottom, which it's actually the same size as the wrist peg, you can remove the milk. So if you want him with the empty cup, you have that option, too. But if you want him with the cup of milk, you have that. And basically, you can just fit it in his hand. And then this is just an alternate hand, of course. So you can have Yusei, you know, you don't get a whole bar and saloon look to it. It was a very, like, Wild West bar kind of thing. And, yeah, there you go. You can have Yusei drinking his milk. That is, I think, a neat bonus. I think it's something that, like, super fans of the series are going to, like, recognize and love. The next accessory, though, I feel should have been in the base package. And that is the signer symbol. So this is his dragon sign. Each of the main signers in the series, they each have a part of the Crimson Dragon design. And it's on his skin. So when you see it in the series, it glows at certain key moments during duels, during iconic moments of the series. It's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a major, like, visual iconography. So it's kind of weird it's exclusive only to the deluxe set. It's basically just the same arm where they've added the tampograph of the sign glowing. But, like, I'm going to display him with his legs attached. I'm going to display him with this most times because if you have him in a duel situation, that would be like the most common way to see it when it's glowing. So it just feels a little weird to me that that is a piece exclusive to the deluxe set, but it's also an incentive because it got me to buy the deluxe set, I think, over any of the other bonuses. But there is one other bonus with the deluxe set that's pretty cool, and that would be Junk Synchron. So Junk Synchron is a tuner monster. You need it for synchro summoning. I'm not going to get into card game mechanics because I know nothing beyond synchro summoning, but Junk Synchron is like the first step to get a lot of the iconic monsters for Yusei, like Junk Warrior, Stardust Dragon, all that. You need your Synchron, you need your tuner, and Junk Synchron is kind of like his main guy to go to. I love Junk Synchron. I mean, look at him. He's adorable, and this is a great little figure of him. The cool part, too, is that this isn't the only way to get a Junk Synchron figure. There was a blind box series they did of tuner monsters, which I thought about buying, but then importing blind boxes is a very expensive venture. But they made several tuner monsters, including Junk Synchron, in that blind box series. So there's ways to get it without the deluxe set. This one does have this winking eye face, though, which is super special. It's just kind of an extra little bonus thing for the deluxe set. I believe you could also get it as a chase figure in the blind boxes, but it does make it cool and unique. The other cool part about him is that while he's not articulated in any way as one static figure, he's very nicely painted overall. And the other cool part is he comes with a stand. So because, you know, monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially in 5Ds, when they're doing like the speed duels on the motorcycles, they're floating. You get this little floating stand. It's a 2-point pivot on the arm. Plug it into his backpack, and now he can float up on off the ground, which is pretty cool. Now, if you want a really accurate display, get yourself like a metal shelf, because this part down here is a big old magnet. So that's not actually metal. That ruined the whole gag. So as long as you have something metal for him to stick to, he will cling and he will float, and that's a pretty cool feature. I really like that. And scale-wise, next to Yusei, he looks pretty good. I think it's about the right size, just a nice little like bonus monster to go with it. So overall, for me, the best deluxe things are the signer arm and the junk synchron, and also the milk. Those were 3 things I wanted, but if you can get a junk synchron somewhere else, or you don't want junk synchron somehow, you may not worry about the other 2 pieces if you want just the base package of the Yusei figure. But now let's get on to some size comparisons to compare his height to other figures. Okay, so here's Revoltech Yusei with Figma Yamayugi and Figma Seto Kaiba. Yusei is a taller character, so he would be normally Seto Kaiba height, so the Revoltechs do scale smaller than the Figmas, especially because, as we know, Yugi is a short king. So it's kind of interesting. You can't really mix Revoltech and Figma very well, but that's also why Revoltech's doing its own thing. They're 2 different companies, so it's not like they're required to, but that is kind of the scale difference between Figma and the Revoltech. You have Revoltech Yusei with SH Figuarts Kakashi Hatake, made by Bandai, and Marvel Legends Moon Knight, made by Hasbro. So you can kind of see this is your standard American 6-inch figure, a standard Japanese size figure with Yusei. He does scale a little bit smaller than both of them, because I feel like he should be about the same height as Kakashi, not official stats-wise, just feeling-wise, but that's kind of an idea between 2 other common lines. And then here he is with my Funko Pop Stardust Dragon, because I'm still waiting on SH Monster Arts or Figure-Rise Standard Amplified, or even Revoltech of Stardust Dragon, because I love Stardust Dragon. That's why I bought the Funko Pop. But you can kind of see where he scales here. It's not like I would display these 2 together unless I'm just putting together all my 5D stuff, which, not the worst idea. I don't have enough of it, so it could just be its own little thing. And now the moment we're waiting for, the Playmates Duel Runner. Let's compare the size of the Yusei figures and then see if we can put the Revoltech onto the Playmates bike. So surprisingly, the Playmates one actually is a little bit taller than the Revoltech, which is probably going to work out for us here in a minute. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how close in size they actually are. Now, obviously, we won't have the helmet for the Revoltech that wasn't included, and we can't remove the helmet off of the Playmates without breaking the plastic or the glue, and I don't want to do that. Enough glue has been broken in this video already. But it's kind of interesting to see. Yes, this guy also has very long legs and a weird crotch because he's designed to go on a bike. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. This was the first Yusei figure I had, and this is the most recent, and I gotta say, looks-wise overall, the Revoltech definitely is winning in pretty much every category. But let's see if we can get him on that bike. All right, so we're about to take a 2024 Japanese-designed import figure from Kaiyodo and put it on the bike of a 2008-ish motorcycle from a toy line that was short-lived for a English dub of the show, because we really don't have any other options. So for recap, for those who may not have seen the older video, this is kind of a basic version of Yusei's Duel Runner, but I think it was pretty well done. You even have parts of the Duel Disk that can be removed, including like the center part, and it can be assembled, but we're just going to leave that in place because you can't take apart the one that came with the Revoltech, so we're just going to leave all that. I'm also going to leave the missile, the card missile, in place, because yes, it had a missile with cards on it, which is kind of fun. We're just going to leave all that as is. There's no real modification to the bike we really can do. These pieces move. We've got little handlebars. The actual guards here move, so they can go from resting position into driving position. They can even fold up if you want the thing to tip a little bit. It's a smart design. So let's see if we can take Mr. Weird Articulation Scheme and get him onto the bike. So I've not tried this at all, by the way. This is first time camera test. Let's get the little things down here so it's in dual mode. Let's see. It's gonna be the hardest part is the hips, right? So we gotta get the hips in here. That's not, we're doing pretty good so far. So far, so good. The trick here is that because of his waistcoat, it's gonna be a little tight, but I think if we do this and hold and keep everything together, bring the arm down, and we can, I just have the open hands, because he doesn't have grip hands, so I just put the open hands on him. So we just kind of like line this up sort of like this. Let's get the other control down, and then let's get this moved forward. All right, we're cooking. We're cooking here. We got something. I just popped his hand off. This is the awkward stuff that action figure reviews are meant for, guys. This is we're going old school. All right, so we're gonna sit like this, get his feet on the pedals, lean him forward is fine because it is a motorcycle. You do need to have like your forward momentum going on. There you go. So he totally fits. No real space issues. I think the only thing is the back of his coat. Like he could probably lean back a little bit better, but like I said, it's a motorcycle, so I think that's fine. But yeah, Yusei's Dual Runner from the old Playmates toy line. If you have it, it's gonna somehow magically match up with your Kaiyodo Revoltech Yusei, and boy, I couldn't be happier. That looks good enough. I might just leave that as the display because the bike itself looks good. It's just the one thing that looked a little weaker was the Yusei, because he's like a kid's toy from late 2000s. That's not his fault, but like this is popping. I'm liking this a lot. This looks really good. I just thought of this pose as I was about to take him out of it, where he's got the card in one hand like he's about to duel. I think it looks pretty good. Actually, I am surprised at how well this works, but I'm pleasantly surprised. Okay, so overall, how do I recommend this set? Well, if you're looking for a figure of Yusei Fudo from 5Ds, it's certainly a figure of Yusei Fudo from 5Ds. I think that in general, if you don't really love the character and you're kind of desperate for a figure of him because he just doesn't get merch, it's probably an easy pass. At the price he goes for, and for how finicky he is, it's going to be only for your hardcore 5Ds fans. And for your super hardcores, the deluxe set that comes with Junk Synchron and the Signer Arm and the Glass of Milk. That's like your super hardcore tier. But even the base figure, I would say, if you're not hardcore into Yu-Gi-Oh! Or 5Ds, it may be an easy pass. Because the thing with the figure is, he's not super fun to play with. He's really kind of finicky. And considering a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters kind of stand dramatically, but not really in crouch poses, his legs look super weird just standing there. He's got some weird, like, design choices, and then the QC is strange. I don't think it's bad QC, but we had the glue on the waist pop apart. There's some joints that are super tight, like this thigh won't move, this thigh moves, but it feels like I'm gonna, like, pop the leg off, and then some of the hands will stay on, and some of them will just fall off randomly. For the most part, he's good, and that may be just specifics to my copy. The glue thing may be because I live in a desert climate, but it's just things to keep an eye out for. But once again, I say that if you're not super hardcore into 5Ds, this might be an easy pass, especially for the price it goes for. But if you are super hardcore into 5Ds, he's a totally fine figure. I think there's some improvements they could make to make him really good, like making the legs less awkward, the shoulders. I think the bummer is you can't have him like dramatically hold a card up straight to the sky because of the way the shoulders are. Like, for example, what I have Kaiba doing back here. Like, you can do this with Kaiba because the shoulder pad is like a separate piece that rotates. And I wish you could do that with Yusei, because it's kind of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing to do when you summon like your iconic card. And so because of that, it's, I would say, a mild recommendation, but only for hardcores. It's a fine figure, just not an amazing one. But that does it for this review. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. Like I said, if this gets enough attraction, I'll do Junk Warrior. I'm definitely getting Junk Warrior. Whether I review him, it'll be up to you. Let me know in the comments as well if that's something you want to see. And also subscribe to the notification bell if you aren't subscribed already for all kinds of future videos, for action figures, for Blu-rays, for viewing guides, for histories, and more. We have a Discord server. You can join the link below. Fun community to come hang out with. We have live streams on the channel every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want to help support the channel directly to make videos like this possible, consider joining as a channel member. You can get perks like early access to videos, member-exclusive live streams, and special shoutouts depending on what tier you join. Let's get some special shoutouts to our channel members. Special shout out to all our channel members, including our captain tiers, Spin-54, Toma K, MasterBen95, Jamie's World, Forever1000, Clint Jorgensen, Common Jojo, Stephen Hinojosa, Muhammad Faiz Daniel, Dominator, Yash Gangater, R2 Wingo, Doge9789, Alex Alexis, Brendan Donnellan, Toast Rave, Brenton Yadden, Mr. Smelly Potato, GV2186, and Silver Bricks. Thank you all for your support. You can find me, if you so wish, across most social media platforms, including Blue Sky at Soundout12, my Oscar graphic designers on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643, and you can find Hero Club at hero-club.com for interviews, news, reviews, and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, see you in the next duel.